Hello, hello. Welcome to day two of the art of being a gracious diva. That's always fun when you forget the title of your own event. So, yeah, the art of being a gracious diva. We're tapping into the awesomeness of divas, past, future, and present. And we're trying to understand what it takes to take the stage and really show up in the essence of beauty and truth of whatever you're sharing, because whatever you're sharing includes that. Okay. That is part of the work we're doing here. So, today we're talking about what it takes to take that stage. What are the challenges that come up when you're trying to share your brilliance? How can you actually share your brilliance? Like, what does it actually take for you? Not everybody, not everybody needs everything that I do, right? A lot of people kind of come out the womb being extroverted and well spoken. A lot of our great communicators, a lot of our great writers, right? They kind of are wired for it in a very real way. In a very real way. So we're not discounting talent, but most of everything that we want to do in the world has a skill that allows somebody to do that talent consistently, and the talent can actually be learned. It's interesting. Some say that if you have zero talent that you can't learn, but I'm literally like, I mean, people who couldn't hold a pitch with water is like one of the phrases, they with a pitcher, what what should I say? So yeah, and that kind of makeup, right? That have been Broadway performers for musicals. So the strength in musicals is singing. Singing and dancing, yes, but if you're a lead character, 9 times out of 10, that Broadway musical's strength, one of the dominant strengths has to be vocals. It just is. That's the way it goes. That's what Broadway is about, right? It's about being the triple threat, being able to act and sing and dance, right? And then you can get away with a lot by acting out singing, but you can't get away with everything. And a lead character, you want those big moments to show up in the music, right? It really is. I mean, that's why opera still exists. I really do think so because there's something powerful that happens in the voice, changes the dynamic in the room. And an operatic voice can be felt in the room as even in theaters. And so there's nothing like it. And it's something that you can take to your stage. It's something that make you an excellent speaker, even if you're not great at memorization, even if you're not a great persuader. You can hold attention through the honesty and authenticity of showing up in your frequency in the moment. In the moment. And I like to say that there's a signature vibration. And what I mean by that is that there's components. I literally built out a, a I don't know, what is it? A structure. It's definitely a structure, a framework of what it takes to hone your signature vibration. It takes the understanding of your energy on a very energetic level, and we do use astrology for that. It takes a felt experience of your own energy by tapping into those things. And it takes, in my opinion, it takes your voice. You have to be able um, to use it as what it's meant for. It is the instrument of our manifestation. Okay, we're going to get into that in a little bit. But just to remind you what we're doing here in the Art of Gracious Diva event, we're here to build a legacy of service and excellence. We're not asking you to do it worse, but we're asking you to get started. And even if it doesn't look like your perfect self, we're talking about ways to amplify your beauty and your unique genius, and really that predominantly we're talking about our voice as a way of communicating that. We're going to get into that. I actually have my slides ready today, so it might be a little slide heavy today, just so that I'm talking to all of the versions of brain. Some of us like to see things visually to believe them, or not really believe them, but to absorb them. This is how their systems work. And it is important to kind of speak to people where they are and how they are, right? So I do believe that as a teacher, I'm a teacher at heart. And that is one of the things that I do my best to include, even though I'm not very strong in visual devices. I do my best to create them, and when I do, to do so lovingly. And it's part of how I artistically show up. So hopefully you'll love my slides. You'll love them. All right. So, and then how to start showing up for business and vision. So, what does it take to actually start and get out there? If it's something that you've tried and attempted before, and you've said you're going to do before, and nothing happened, then it's not just you don't know, you don't know what you want, or you don't know how to do it. I'm sure you've been at enough presentations, challenges, whatever, so that you've gained an idea of how to go about that. But maybe your brain blanks when it's time to create your own, or maybe when it's actually time to show up and speak, you're not satisfied and you delete it, or you're not ever actually doing it. You keep finding reasons and prioritizing other things instead of that vision or that business, right? So what is it about that? We're going to get into that, especially today. That's a big thing that's up today. And then your strengths and how to tap into that. That's more of what we're going to build on in our leadership portal for 4, 5, and 6. So go ahead and jump in there. We'll talk about what that portal leads to, not just in your own framework of being a gracious diva, but also in doing more of this work, right? Of using your voice as a tool for change. Okay. And so we're also talking about using your leadership voice and doing the next level of your impact and visibility, like really tapping into it. And that is a lot of what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. We're going to talk about innovation and why I speak specifically to neurodivergence, creator or artistic minds, creative minds, and specifically to visionaries, people who are seeing beyond what is actually physical. Because it looks a little different, to pull that down is actually a form of manifestation. And that's literally the point of our voices, is that the third chakra is the chakra of manifestation. It's from bringing things from the world of ideas and universal consciousness into our beingness, and then sharing it in the physical world. So that people can connect to it in real time. Talk about more about that in a few. If you didn't remember, we are still doing our win a gift, win the voice activation for price confidence session. Remember, if you're not ready to set your price yet, maybe this is for you, that voice activation to show up on YouTube, that voice activation to do your next project as a speaking event. Okay. I like to talk about projects in different houses, what I call containers, because we're doing it all. We want to do it all. And usually our legacy event, which we'll talk about later, is something that includes the variety of things. It's not just one point of creativity. Again, my people tend to pick up skills and forms of expression that are diverse. And so it might not only look like a speech or just look like a webinar. It might look like an actual event where there might be music, there might be visuals, right? It can be so many different things. It really can. It's really up to you and what wants to be born through you. And this is our little incubator, our little accelerator into bringing you into what that will be. It is already inside of you, and we're basically just honing and focusing and amplifying until it starts to become the thing that we are looking to do. And in the meantime, we're doing our projects. We'll talk about it more later. Okay. So one of the things I want you to think about when we're talking about the challenge of being a leader, it's part of it is how we are hard on leaders. A lot of us know that things can be better. They can be way better, right? So what happens is we think that there must be something wrong with the person at the head, instead of maybe the system isn't working, or how we're listening, or how they are executing. And it usually, I mean, if we're talking about the head, like sometimes it really is that person. It's their energy trickling down, right? But and this is why we need more leaders that are full of awareness, because the highest vibration wins. If we have more of us leading, then people will entrain. right? And the balance will be restored. And that is what we're looking for. I'm not saying that people must be wiped out, unlike some people. We're saying that the balance must be restored, right? So, and that's not like a, I like to give people room to breathe, but the truth of the truth of the truth is it's time for balance, right? We're ready for it. In any case, what are we doing when we're thinking about other leaders, when we look at other business owners or maybe other women in business, and we get the ick? The ick. What is the ick? I don't know. I love this comedian called Josh Johnson. He's always talking about the ick, where like if you're going on a date and somebody and you do something that people are like, oh, that's not somebody I want to be with. He says it's getting the ick, or they're like they thought they were interested and then they got the ick when you did that, right? And we do that. We do that with people in leadership. We do that with the person on the stage. This is why people love shows like what is that called? Voice star people. Shoot, I can't think of the name. But voice shows where they're competing. People love it because they love to judge. They love to judge who should be there and who shouldn't. And that's the hard part of leadership is that it puts you in a spotlight where people now have an opinion about you. And so a lot of us are not recognizing how much we're not ready to hear people's opinions. So part of this is doing the shadow work on what we're assuming about people because of the way they're approaching or how the systems they're using or the words that they're saying to serve people, right? And I do believe that there's kind of I'm doing this in a different way. So by the difference of how I'm showing up, what I like to see and what I don't, right? And you can do the same thing. You can do the same thing. It doesn't alleviate the same things that come up, like having people understand what's happening, having people actually make a decision instead of just seeing like for forever, right? If they were going to do it on their own, they wouldn't need leadership. So we do have to do some version of intersecting to where they are with a new idea, which can feel bad sometimes, right? It can trigger people. So we have to be allowing ourselves to say enough that people can meet us where we are. So when we look at how we are already criticizing people that are in leadership, we can start looking at how we want to do it differently and also start giving some empathy and grace so that we're like, well, I wouldn't do it that way, but if that's the way they know how to do it, then that's what, if they feel that desperate that they have to do it that way, right? Whatever it is, they're just being human. And, we're all working on ourselves. Okay. So how are you criticizing other divas in our industry? How is that happening? And can you look into that and see like where that might be holding you back and showing up for yourself? It's a very important component. And another piece of why it's so challenging to share what we're here to do, mistaking your strengths as weaknesses. I see this all the time, right? Oh, who would want to be me, right? Which is, I feel like can be valid if we're really feeling the pressure of our unique qualities. But that's why I love the Gene Keys, because they're going to show you the gift. If you're feeling the shadow, if you're feeling that pressure, if you're feeling the lack, then there's another side. There's a gift that's hidden. There's a gem and a genius that is yours that's in that. And that's what I love sharing and what we really tap into when we get into the full work. So if you are, usually if we're calling ourselves these things because we heard them when we were younger, or we've thought of them about somebody else. Oh, you're too loud. Oh, you're too serious. Oh, you're so emotional. Oh, it's being extra. They're being extra. Oh, they must be needy or thirsty. They need that attention. Oh, they're so dramatic. Can you just tone down the drama? And we're like, no. It's like, sometimes I like to be dramatic, right? Like the whole point of Some of us are pulled to sharing our voice in a very big way. I think of that as performance. And literally, when you're performing in a lot of ways, you're there to get attention. That's part of it. It is, right? If you can't hold the attention in the room, then you're not really performing, right? But there's another side that I value more, and that's the connection that people can feel you on stage in a way that transforms what they think is possible for them. That's my goal, right? So if we're saying somebody's too quiet to be listened to, that's another version. Because if you're a quiet voice or you're an introvert and you prefer to be quiet and you're quiet 90% of the time, and you go on and you're like, oh my gosh, that person speaks so softly. Right? Or they speak so slowly. Then now you feel like you have to rush, or you feel like you have to speak louder. And it can sound fake, and it can tire people out, especially other introverts, which are probably your preferred clients, because you probably want somebody who's sensitive enough to be a nice person, right? And not be more problem than growth and moving together in the work that you're there to share, right? Because if there's always that pushback and you just convince them, this is why I don't really believe in convincing people in sales either. I believe that you tell them what the offer is, how you think it can help, and whether they want to do it or not is up to them. And then if they want to do it, then sometimes it takes a little bit of more information to see how it can happen. But there's no need to convince anybody. Either they want to or they don't, right? And the job really is to teach it well enough, to explain well enough, to share well enough, to communicate well enough that they understand when it is for them. Okay. So this is part of how we get people to start showing up for our business and vision. Because showing up for other people is a big assignment nowadays. Right? I do not have some of my brilliant, amazing audience and previous clients and current clients that show up for a great many of my events. And um, and I value every single one. I value every single one. And part of the work here is to really be able to drop into the moment. I'm going to bring up the slides in a second. What I want you to know is that we often get in our own way because of how we perceive people will judge us down the road. So we end up watering down the message so we don't trigger people. And then people have a harder time understanding why it's important for them. Right? So we're not talking specifically to the people who need what we're doing. We're watering it down for the people who may not get it or are not ready, which is okay too. You're not indicting somebody because they're not ready for work, right? When you trigger somebody, it's not because you don't feel like they're worthy, right? It's because they're not for you right now, right? But when you are triggering somebody, it's probably a good indication that they are a future client. So do we not want to trigger people? Not in my camp. You want to bring up where transformation can happen. And in that, you have to encounter what may still be a shadow and therefore might push people over the edge a little bit for a minute until they can integrate and recalibrate their own emotions, right? And that might take a while because a lot of us don't have tools for recalibration. Right? So there's that piece of it. All right. I have this wonderful thing, but I have to get my slides or else we'll be here for longer than I expected. So let's go ahead and share my slides so we can get started on what is Gracious Diva Leadership and why are we here. We're going to get into some riders, which is a contract that comes with the contract to engage an artist. So a lot of times, again, we're talking divas. We're going to be looking at some diva contracts. We're going to be looking at some actual singing artist contracts. Okay, it's pretty fun. So first, we're just going to talk a little bit about Gracious Diva Leadership and what it is. What is it? What do we do over here as gracious divas? And remember to get into the portal, which is going to have more of the information, some of the teaching, some of the examples of teaching that are going to be in the actual coursework, that it's free. It's free to get into the portal. So what we're looking for, like if you decide to do the work and you know that you want to fully commit, then just go ahead and book an appointment with me so that we can get started, like now. Right? Not, and if you're not ready, if you're thinking about it, I'm okay for thinking. I do believe that you should understand when you're tuned to something. But in that, I also want you to remember that sometimes it's triggering, especially during this time because it's a tough time. So everything can feel like a threat. Okay. So if you're feeling like it's a threat, it's like I'm unsettled. I don't know how much it's going to cost me. If you want to know, actually, you can get started for a couple $100s. So it's not that big a deal, right? And for most of us, we could swing it if we wanted to, right? It's just to get started, right? And you might as well, if you know that it's something potentially for later or that you're building up to it, then you can go ahead and get started in the material, and then you can join in fully when you have really made the commitment, right? And jump in. So don't let previous trauma with information keep you from receiving this information. This is literally the stuff that makes up the coursework, right? And so if you already have your own tools, if you already have your own projects, and you really just needed like a little bit more of trusting yourself, this can really put you over the edge. This can be the thing that makes a difference. Okay. And if not, then I'm here to help you and support you further when you're ready for that. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to share the screen again because I got chatty. You know how I do. So we're going to share. And this is Gracious Diva Leadership, folks. We are here to build revolutionary businesses by just the fact that we're living exponentially spiritual and exponentially evolutionary lives. Revolution, I think, is just that reminder that it is a cycle. If you do one, there's going to be another. But if we are in leadership, we get to time the revolution. We get to make our own tower, so to speak. And tarot, if you know it, in the cards, we get to say when change is happening. And if change is happening, we get to say how it happens. And that's the beauty of recognizing changes and cycles. Okay, moving on. We got a lot to talk about. So this is about third chakra. When we're moving into problems with our third chakra, we're looking for perfectionism to be the proof of our value. We're looking for perfectionism to be the proof of our value, right? Can I do this better? Yes. Does it mean that it makes it more important or more valuable to do my work? No. So I hold that truth in my being. I'm not really waiting for you to recognize how awesome I am as a, slides artist, right? That's not really, like, I already know what it takes to bring an introvert or divergent voice into the world. I know because I've done it, right? So I'm not really worried about whether you think I have good enough slide skills, right? I'm going to make the slide as a tool and an asset for other people to perceive my work, but not as the proof of it. When we're spending hours and hours on like a single image or a single paragraph, and it's different if it's your talent. If you're a writer, then spend the time that you know what it takes to make it as good as you know you can make it. But if you're not a writer, let it go, right? Get it as good as you feel like you can and let it go and let them tell you, what did they hear? What did they not hear? What are they responding to? What are they not responding to? Right? And they'll, I know it's harder to get those responses nowadays, but it's still the way to go. What's fun about those who are empathic, you're already getting a sense of how people are feeling when you drop the fear that they're going to criticize you or you're talking to the wrong person. Right? So what you really want to hear is the feedback of the people who already get you. And I don't mean family. I mean people who get your genius, why you're special. Okay. Inability to express emotions shows up with that chakra challenge. Remembering that this is the manifestation chakra. If we can't express our emotions, we're not expressing the creation because it starts as a feelingness in the body. Okay. And when I say emotions, I mean energy and motion. I mean a felt sense in the body. I know a lot of people directly relate that to like, happiness, joy. Those are like results of physical, you know, and that's just, and I know people speak about emotions directly as kind of a mind thing, and so therefore not spiritual. And I beg to differ. I beg to differ. To me, is the actual energetic GPS is telling you where truth is, and it'll move through your body to tell you if the truth is available. And that's part of building affirmations that work. It's being able to feel that, or have me help you work through it. That's what the voice activation is for. So it blocks creativity. So you might be somebody who has 1,000 ideas for your boss to get their event done. And then when it's time to come to your own or make your own event, you run out of ideas. You get sore throats, you get sick before or after an event, which means that it's so stressful to your body that your immunity drops and you get sick, right? So on day, yeah, I think day 3. So tomorrow we'll go ahead and we'll talk. I'll tell you about the flow frequency beta study, which is free to join. It's not really open to public yet, but you can be put on the wait list. So if you're interested in learning how you can get actual data for your somatic therapy, if you want to see how Oman's method changes your physical experience and therefore your ability to be confident on stage, you can get on the wait list, and I'll let you do that tomorrow. But today we're going to be focusing on this. All right. So this is about feeling like if you're having a challenge, people would call it block back in the day, but really it's just not flowing the way that it can. It's not fully optimally flowing, the chakra, right? And so it results in these kind of experiences in our life, feeling unseen, unheard, or misunderstood, saying things that aren't easily understood. This can be a throat chakra problem. It's very interesting because I have people that I know that are extroverts and actually naturally, or at least in their youth, like when they were children, from the time they were children, easily spoke their minds, easily spoke up, may even be kind of naturally magnetic. And then it goes away. So it's the same thing, like if you're naturally introverted and now you're extrovert, you're showing up as an introvert predominantly. Those things are things that you want to check out, because if that nature is changing, and it could just be by phase. We'll talk about that in a second. But something I would look into. And the trouble focusing on personal projects. And why personal? Because we often are in our genius and when we're in service, because we're not thinking about ourselves, we're just trying to help. Just kind of the basic component of compassion, which is, an essence of universal energy of God, right? So we naturally show up in our highest vibration when we're in service. And so we might have done, like I was a admin, I would put on event after event for them, and it was all well put together. Everybody knew where they're supposed to be. It was all very timely sent out. I did it very well for years, right? And I still to this day have a little bit of like kind of glitches when it comes to letting people know where I'm going to be and when I'm going to show up, right? It's a pattern that shows up in my cycles right before performance. I tend to interrupt myself. Okay. If we can know that about ourselves, you know how much more easily I can say, okay, the interruption's happening. I just got to tap back into the truth of why I'm here and get back into my full high resonance and go. How about how much more easily things move for me today because I haven't trained so much of that? Not that it's perfect yet, but that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be perfect. I already have clients, right? I can, and this is something that I can improve. So I hopefully I'll have a full studio all the time when I've improved just a little bit more, right? And so that's why we're always growing. We're always growing, but I think we can accelerate that growth. We really can. So, what does the third chakra look like if it's in full flow? If there's plenty of energy moving through it, in alignment with all the chakras, it looks like I'm speaking up for myself, not just for other people. I speak up for myself. I express myself with clarity. Right? When I have a clear idea, it's clearly shared. Right? And then people get to choose how they respond, but at least they know where I'm coming from. Right? Clarity and confidence. So that's that confidence. They'll at least they understand where I'm coming from, whether they like it or not. It just is. And when we can tap into our purpose, which is part of the signature vibrational work, it just is. It just is. We're not here to argue with people about what's true for us. Okay. When I speak, I do not back away from what is true. So that's that same feeling. Yes. What I'm saying is true for me. Whether it's true for you or not, that's for you to discern. But I'm not going to worry about whether you agree with everything I'm saying. Or if you have a question, I'm perfectly willing to talk to you about the finer points of a thing when we only have, our minutes on stage to share the idea that we're holding for others, right? So, gracious Diva leadership, this is the portal information. Like, what are we doing in the portal? What do I get access to if I'm not getting access to your whole course for free? Right? Yeah, because you're not getting access to the whole course for free. But again, like it only costs, 3 digits to invest in this leadership path, right? So, tuning into higher self. That's the biggest point. Like, what are we doing? Why are we here? Why is our voice powerful? What is unique about the voice? And what is unique about your voice is what is powerful. those are the same thing. Okay. And why essentially the value of it, why it needs to be heard. And remembering confidence, what it takes to feel the thing that is confidence. And a lot of times we're assigning it to, well, I'm confident when I'm like, I don't know what people will be thinking. Confidence is really a result, right? And what I've done is I've used the nervous system to create the result, and I assign it the value or the ideal that I hold, or the client holds. So that's the point of the voice activation and those tools that we use for Oman's, the Oman's vocal resonance method. We're in Grace's Diva Leadership, we're learning to communicate our value. How do we get those ideal clients? By communicating our value clearly, right? Communicating our desire to help clearly so that people aren't confused. Lost in the souls. Get lost in the souls, right? So this is a quick lesson on speaking about anything. So whether this is just quick live on Facebook, like, what is your topic? What is your topic for today? Well, I just thought about this morning how meditation is really helpful. So why this? Why meditation? Because it really helped me this morning. Why me? Because I've experienced how helpful it was to me this morning, right? Why now? Because I just experienced this and I couldn't wait to tell you about it, right? This is really like your whole speech is this. Like if you're looking for your signature speech and they're charging you $10,000 for that, there you go. That's it right there. There you go. That's your $10,000 speech. Can we get more specific and intricate and, work off of timing and neural, what do you call it, neuro whatever? So that you can like program people. Yeah, you can do all that. But honestly, this is what people want to know. Like, why are you talking to me? Why you couldn't do it some other time? Can I come back later? Right? Like that's all they really want to know. No, you cannot. This is the most important thing in your life, being you. I'm going to my reason why now. This is the most important. You have to, if you're not yourself, then you're missing the point. You're missing the point. If you didn't see it yet, on again on the YouTube shorts or no community posts. If you're not, I guess you'd have to be subscribed to. Well, subscribe to my YouTube channel. um, and in the community post is the feature from I think Dr. Kotz, I think is the person speaking, and he talks about the research and the experimentation on literal energy that comes from the human body and how they tracked it through different, like in a Faraday cage to track the energy, and essentially how what they use to create the energy within people is emotions. Check that out because the strongest emotion, the strongest energy, and they were getting surges. And that's it wasn't initially the emotion that they assigned to the people, but what was happening is that there were certain things that were like everything was going fairly well, or there was going pretty high or expected because they did bad emotions too, um, and what was happening is that they were having spikes. And I bet even with the bad emotions, I bet you anything because there's no such thing as a bad emotion. It's just trying to tell you how close you are to your truth. So your emotions are trying to tell you how close you are to truth. So guess what the predominant, the winning emotion is? Being in tune with the truth. What do we call that? Authenticity. Huge spikes, huge off the chart spikes just from feeling authentic. We can entrain that. That's confidence. That's true confidence. That's true confidence. Not needing all the tricks and all the come through the hoops. Yeah. It's more than that. So yeah, so that is essentially what's important about showing up in that way. So now we're going to go into writers. One of the diva characteristics we're rooting for day 2 is having an uncompromising vision. And my favorite story about writers, which again is the contracts that are attached to the first contract to engage an artist, and it's usually for musicians. But it's for everybody. It really is. It just depends on what level of wherever you are, whether you get to have a writer. But Mariah Carey, there's an article a long time ago about Mariah Carey complaining about that she was being too much of a diva because she wanted everything in her dressing room to be white. And people are like, that is such a ridiculous request. And why? And one of the biggest, most important kind of standout features of that request was that she wanted white M&Ms, like a big jar of white M&Ms. And what was hard about that is that they only made white M&Ms like one time a year, I think, like Christmas, winter, around there. Right? And so they literally had to get like the winter kit of M&Ms, and then they had to pick out all the white ones, and then they had to put it in the jar. Right? Is that ridiculous? Is that ridiculous? I think some people would say yes. And my take on that is that no, it's not. If what it takes for her to feel supported in her divine expression, to create the experience you expect from a diva, is for everything to be white and there be white M&Ms in the corner that you planned a year ahead or however long ahead in advance so that you could get them in there. Right? Those are different. There's several things there. There's the what I like to be supported, or what environment supports me to show up in my fullest expression of my artistry and self and my version of beauty. There's that. There's I'm not doing this on a whim. Like I've known for a year that I want Mariah Carey in my venue. I've known for a year that she's a special artist that needs special requirements. I've known for a year. I've looked at this significantly far ahead of time to make sure that I'm doing what I said I would do in my contract. So that's another component, like especially for dressing rooms for the band as well. We're going to actually look at one in a second. That's another component. Is your team supported to support you in being who you need to be on that stage? This is way like truly divine leadership requires levels of support that are right now unimaginable and might sound and like impossible in a lot of ways. But your work is worth it. And we get to learn, we get to design what it takes for us to fully show up. And part of that, like environment creation, is part of the leg of what we do in vocal alchemy and organizing and letting people know. Like that's another thing. Like her team had to make sure that was in the contract the year in advance. It had to be done in order for that to come to fruition in the dressing room. Everybody had to be on point for that to happen, right? And in that way, it makes sure that you're fully supported so that you can do the thing that you're meant to do. Because if they come and they miss something on the contract, and that means that somebody gets shocked on your team from not properly wiring the system, or somebody is like, comes in without hypoglycemic and doesn't have any food, right? All of those things are factors, all of them. And some of us are just very unique about how we make sure those things happen. And I think it's rarer now too. We're going to look at a few of these. So let's go to our first, which will just kind of tell you the basics of what to expect on a writer, which I think is interesting, especially for those who are singers or musicians out there. This is something that people understand, that you need certain things in your dressing room when you show up. So there's naturally going to be something for whoever's coming for the show itself. There's a traveling party, the hospitality requirements for when we're coming in. So some people are taking care of these at the hotels as well. But it's mostly the dressing room. Mostly the dressing room. And we're going to see there's a lot, and they're very specific. It's very specific. So again, food is something that's allowed on a writer, so you can ask for specific food. That's what they expect. But it's also the system. What do you need to create the effect and the sound and the show? How do you what do you need to make that show be unforgettable? Like you are Mariah Carey. What do you need? A white dressing room. That's what I need. I'm like, okay, whatever you need, right? Right? Because they're there for the diva. They are there for her to show up in her full self. If she doesn't show up fully, who do you think they're gonna have a problem with? The venue? But if all of this isn't in place, then how does she guarantee that for them? This is why it's so important to really have a true understanding of what it means for you. This is one that I pulled as very specific. Sarah Brightman, who became famous from, I think she was the first lead on Phantom of the Opera. Okay, so again, she does a lot of different stuff: English classical crossover, soprano, singer, songwriter, actress, dancer, and musician. So these are her catering requirements. So she needs a whole catering, and she says catering because she's not like, don't pick this up from your grocery store. So get me a caterer with real stuff. I want real metal. I want an actual linen. I want to feel like I'm having an actual meal. Don't actually come to me with the stuff from 7-Eleven, right? Like that's what she's saying. Very specific things. Literally definitions of dinner. Like she expects dinner because most concerts are evening events, and she's not trying to like live off of the trails and snack trails of others. She's trying to have a full meal, and she's going to tell you exactly what that is. And she's telling you there's vegetarians in her crew, and sometimes she likes to eat vegetarian meals. She's very clear on that. So this looks like something that's probably going to also be part of the hotel fulfillment, right? The accommodations, which is also part of a writer. So again, if you're going out of town for an event and you're an artist, you do get to ask if there are things to support you while you're there. If you're doing a long trip, then it's, yeah, are you taking care of any meals? Are you taking care of any overnight housing so I don't have to go back and forth and lose sleep or lose energy for the performance, right? Very, very specific. It's very, very specific, right? So even our tour manager has an addition to the writer. You see that? You see that? This is not, probably haven't even heard of Sarah Brightman, right? Most of y'all don't even know who she is. That's crazy to me, but it's true. It's very true. And this can be true for you too. Like people, not everybody's gonna know who you are, but that doesn't mean you can't ask for what you need to be supported, what you know you need. And this is applying to in the course work we talk about this as far as how do we ask for what we need with the people around us, our loved ones. How do we find out what we need? What do I need to ask myself to know, or what do I need to experience to know how I need to be supported during an event? Because it's different. Events are summertime. The heat is on. Okay, the heat is on. There's a lot that happens in summer that is not happening in spring. It is not happening in the fall. It's happening in summer. And how is even in that event itself, the spring and the fall, how are you preparing? How are you planting? How are you nourishing? How are you coming to culmination? How are you harvesting? How are you processing the event? Right? So we do have to think about these things. Like if you want to be a perfectionist, if you want people to, get exactly the version of artistry that you want, these are the things that it takes to make that happen. Right. And so yeah, so I'm thinking about even doing like a performance rituals kind of retreat, thinking about it. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I would love some feedback on that. Performance rituals are basically how you get ready for something. Like, like for me, it's like tea and having like certain things done before I show up for a big event. And what it does is it creates a feelingness, a readiness. And there's so much you can do energetically for that. I'm thinking of creating like a whole thing just for like even like a big thing, like doing what do you call it, fasts, like doing a fast for events, because you can really amp up magnetic experience if you prepare yourself energetically. Ooh, the amplification, huge, huge. All right. Anyways, if you're interested in that, please let me know because that would be a fun project. All right. So going back to our slides, we still have a bit more, a bit more. So here we are, here we are. So this is what we're talking about. The revolutionary leadership, what does it take? We have to have a knowledge of self, a knowledge of the value of our voice. That is the voice. And the vibration the voice creates is real, right? And then it's a felt physical vibration. And the cycles are essentially what is built in and around those things. Again, before, the after. What is winter? We don't know. Most of us, we have no examples of winter because nobody rests on purpose and tells other people, right? Except for me, which I do have a video on YouTube about winter's rest. You might have to go through the book club to get to that. But the anchoring of purpose is essentially assigning the ideals, assigning what you want us, the experience. Okay. Again, we do like to tap into astrology to clarify those things and to create a more vibrant, interwoven reality of that felt thing. And breath. Breath is about the ephemerality. It's about what we are not seeing yet. It's about getting comfortable with what we're not seeing yet. And the best experience to practice that is breath and voice. Okay. So we did talk about third chakra. We did not talk about the manifestation of the third chakra. Why is it the manifestation chakra? Because it's where the body meets the breath, which is the unseen. It's relevant to spirit, espiritu. is breath. Breath, espiritu is breath. It's a translation. Yeah. So, so that is the unseen power meeting the felt experience power of our physical manifestation of voice, even though it's this kind of in between. We can sense it, we can hear it, we can correlate, and we can say, oh, that is something that's happening in this now reality. And yet, it's not something that you can touch. Like, I can't get over there and grab the voice, right? You can feel it, but you can't necessarily. So it's the when an idea becomes a now reality, it's the first step. This is why affirmations can be powerful if they're aligned. But if they're not aligned, you might have problems. Why is this important to me? Is because we keep trying to get to the events, we keep trying to be a successful business without valuing the experience, right? We're not trusting the process. We're not understanding the creative cycle. And so it feels like anytime that you haven't already done the final project, the goal that is we're failing. This is all failing and not feeling good about yourself and feeling like there's something wrong with you because you're not here yet. So how do we get out of this competition of a failing competition? Because even if you're winning, you still feel like shit the majority of the time. Like, why would you want to live that, right? The difference is if you're valuing every part of that process, every part of the journey. Why and how? How can we do that? Well, again, the breath is the beginning of all things. So there's already a cycle in the breath. We get into a really adept Vedic description of breath in the coursework because it's important. Because it's literally, you're not alive. The first thing that you would kill you if you run out of it is your breath. You need oxygen, right? It's important. And so it's important to spend some time on. But it also is not, it can change your state. Breath work is great. It can change your state. It's powerful. I do highly recommend breath work, just like I highly recommend meditation. And I know those are shorter pathways. There's nothing that's going to be as powerful as combining the breath of your ephemerality and the vibration of your sound of intentional awareness happening in real time to your body. There's not a comparison, and including with how we're interacting with others. The new moon. So again, the cycles that are already there as a form of creation. New moon is one of those. The feminine cycle, so important, which brings us to our feminine cycle, menstruation. The actual brings living beings into the world that have their own universe within them, other human beings. It's crazy. It's crazy. Being a mother is crazy. I don't know how y'all do it. Like, but it's magical. It is. Creating whole new worlds. It's amazing. Anyways, this is like if you take that circle and you go end to end, you're going to see that event horizon. But in the universality, there's not really a difference. It's just all vibration. It's all happening like that. It's just waves of energy moving outward. Right? And the most of our universe is experiencing it as this. They're not experiencing it as the physicality that we are. We're only doing that here in the 3D, right? This is the gene key chart. So just again, one of the ways we tap into our purposeful energy that's coded to our DNA. And this is the Oman's vocal resonance with why I feel it applicable, right? We're actually using a felt vibration to recognize the cycles of our creation and then initiate our own intentional energy as a beingness, as a creation. This is kind of the quantum field of vibration. So what we just talked about, what are the 3 dimensions? What are the 3 dimensions of creation? And that's true for anything on the planet or in 3D. I'm sure there's other dimensions in 3D. Pseudo better. Okay. But in the 3D, this is how we're experiencing it: energy, space, and time. So Almans is how we are doing all of those, and then we're creating in the now moment. And it is, and in a lot of ways, it's a form of channeling. You're channeling the now experience of energy for those present. That's what that is. Cosmic Trinity. This is the universal gateway of the Chinese astrology. And again, it's person, space, time. The person is the initiator of the energy. The space is the distance the vibration covers when we're practicing Omans. And the cycles are the energy over time. How does it build up? Is it sustainable? Is it flowing easily? Is it beautiful? Is it right? And the beauty is about how does it match the intentional desire, artfulness. We spoke about that yesterday, right? And in the Giza Plateau are looking at our ancient knowledge. It's how they literally created, and where the Giza Plateau is based on time, which is basically an equation for time. Speed of light, the equation for speed of light is space, like how much over the distance of speed, and how fast can you go over the distance. Is the fastest possible in our 3D universe is light, right? And we're learning that light transcends dimension, so that's a thing. And then yeah, so the essence or the persona is the structure of the pyramid itself. It is meant to be a reflection of the Merkaba. Okay, so for those who get that deep, if you're interested, that's just why the real why did I decide to make this slide, even though most people probably don't understand it, is because this is the power that's available in this understanding. It's power that was housed in a building that's was done thousands of years, like huge ass building. It's huge. It's crazy. Thousands of years. If we can create that, we don't fathom yet the power of voice. We just don't. All right, gracious Diva space holding. So this is really about the leadership when we are deciding to hold space. And again, we tend to jump into this, but I really do know that the more that you are reflecting on who you're being in these spaces is the most powerful, just the more power you channel into the space. So that's how we take care of both in our work. And in that space, it's about the economy of emotions. How are the emotions moving and flowing through you? Are they? Can they? Are you familiar? Are you feeling anything? Talk about that in the coursework. Relationship. How are we relating? How we feel with others? How are we feeling when we're with others? How are you feeling when we're in close relationships? How are you feeling when we're in group relationships? And that's within the home. To me, these are natural dimensional aspects of environment. Okay, how is our environment, our economy interacting with others? The economy is essentially the flow between environments. How does the stoma, how does it go? What's the portal that goes from one thing to the next? How do we go from inside ourselves to outside and speaking to somebody else? How do we go from inside our home to outside and buying something for somebody else, right? How are our separate homes and separate houses of intentionality working together? That's the network. Okay, and so these are levels of understanding that we look at as we go from Creatrix, which is a part of the program, to Alchemist, which is a part of the program, to Legacy, which is a part of the program. How am I defining these things? Is how are we clear on these aspects and allowing them to be part of our creative process for clarity and power. What is happening? I just changed the slide and it didn't change. That's weird. Anyways, so that's what I'm inviting you to into the Gracious Diva Leadership Portal. Again, the first part is free and you get to be there and chill as long as you like. Don't chill. Learn some stuff while you're there. Apply the stuff while you're there. Ask me questions while you're there. I am there to help. Otherwise, I wouldn't be putting this effort into making a portal. Okay. The portal's not open yet. I'm going to open it on day 4. And day 4 will not be succinct, so we call it uh, consecutive. It'll probably be the beginning of next week. I'll decide and let you know. I haven't decided yet. But what it does is it gives you the portal to the vocal alchemy accelerator. That's where you make your decision. Am I going to make a practice out of this? Am I going to study this and all of its elements? Or am I just interested and I just kind of like the idea? I'm just a fan of the idea, which is okay too, right? I'm down with that. There's plenty of fans. I have plenty of fans out there. That sounds weird, but in a lot of ways I do. And I'm thankful for every single one of them. So the first aspect again of the vocal alchemy accelerator is there's different levels to this, and the first level is personal. And so while we're not going to just sit on our hind legs while we are doing our self exploration and shadow busting and all these things, right? Activating and aligning, we're going to do the deep work, but we're also going to do some things. And so on the personal level, during the process, it looks like projects of purpose. What is something that feels purposeful to you that you want to share? Does that look like a purpose of sharing the beauty or sharing the wisdom or sharing whatever that looks like for you? It's a project that houses true purpose for you. And what's different between that and like a shared intention of purpose is that we've explained it well enough, essentially, that we have enough of the front door. People have encountered our things enough for us to both be on the same point where we decide we're going to create something in the space. So that's kind of what's happening here, right? So we started out, the project is Art of Being. We're going to be gracious divas. We're going to, right? And that's something that we're a project of coming to the culmination of our leadership so that we can create, right? And so a lot of that is what's going to be in the leadership portal. And then the project itself, we're going to establish. We're going to say, okay, this is my project of purpose. And if you've already built some projects of purpose and you kind of are starting to realize what the anchor points are, then you're doing the shared intention space. Shared intention, again, can look like, it doesn't really matter. It can be the entertainment, it can be performance in the way that you're just there to make people feel good, right? That could be the point of an anchor point. That could be the point. But the shared intention is that people know we're coming out, we're going to do some music, and it's going to be fun. Shared intention, right? And then a shared vision. So a legacy event is something that we create because it houses the weave, the many threads of the wisdom, the beauty. So it can look like combined events where music and teaching is involved. It can look like having a speaker training that is also a training, which people are doing actual work and activities in, instead of just speaking at them, which is the other version. I'm kind of doing speaking at you for this. And yeah, but those are the best potential. The full potential of a legacy event is that it houses so much of your purpose that it's starting to build a legacy that is very clear and individual. And the hardest thing to do is try to do this from the get. You know, when I talk about signature talk, usually it's, you know, people when they do these massive talks online, there's a reason why they're older typically. You know, there's two reasons why they're typically older people because it's a decades worth of wisdom that they've, what do they call it, filtered. They've picked the best parts of decades of information and put it into this one talk, and you're just mind blown, right? Even a decade of information, you're going to be a little mind blown over a decade of information, right? Hopefully, you're getting a little bit of that here. This is so that you know if you decide to go ahead and join the Vocal Alchemy Accelerator, which is a combination of the Vocal Creatrix course, which is essentially holding that value of identity and what is possible when we're in ownership of our voice and our creative minds. And then vocal alchemy, which is being able to create those spaces and anchor points of shared intention in a way that feels good. Again, this is all about feeling good, not just doing it in a way that feels good, that you're not drained, that you feel fully confident and capable while you're doing it. Those are the finer points and the more important aspects. So, what do you need to know of whether you're supposed to be in this portal or not? Well, that your voice is unique. If you don't understand that there's something unique about your voice, even if you don't know yourself yet what that is, you in order to make a decision good for you, you have to know that there's something powerful about being you. At least an idea of that. Okay. You need to trust yourself. If you know this is for you, then just check it out. We often are spending the time on the things that are most potent to us because we are so used to subverting what we value for what others would find valuable. And explaining this to somebody, oh, I just joined the Vocal Alchemy Accelerator. They're gonna be like, I don't care, right? Like, whatever. What is that? So if you're looking for recognition and importance by doing this, it's not going to happen right off the bat. But do you know for yourself that this is important to you? That's more important. That is more important to know. All right, so what you're doing is you're getting both of the courses if you decide to join in fully and go ahead and schedule your first session today. Not like either way, like if you do the appointment, we're going to get you like getting into that unique quality of your voice and getting you into understanding what an anchor point may look like for you. Again, they're so individualized. I wish I could be more specific, but not right now, not today. This is a big concept idea. Okay. And it's going to look like, how can I be in flow sustainably? How can I make an impact without burning out? How can I be confident even if I don't know what's going to happen yet? And which is the biggest assignment. And these are the bonuses. So if you decide to join while we're in session, while we're doing live sessions for the Gracious Diva Leadership Portal, then you got your voice activation session. That is what somebody will be winning if they just are commenting on the videos on YouTube and Facebook. And there is the once a month Cosmic Creative Astrology. So what you may not understand is that essentially this is a once a month deal, right? So you get to decide month to month if you want to be part of the program. And I'm not going to assume. So it's not necessarily even a membership, right? Like if you choose membership pricing, that's up to you, but that's not yet available. You have to make an appointment first. But if you choose to do a membership, so you just don't have to think about paying, then that's part of the, I want to make this an easy decision. And then if you're having a month where it's like, oh, like, I don't think this is a priority for me this month, then you can take it off, right? If you decide on a membership. If you didn't, then you just don't make a payment. You just don't make the payment, and then we won't schedule for the month. Okay, that's your private session. So this is the difference between before. Before, in order to get private sessions, you would have to do a VIP level of vocal alchemy or vocal creatrix, which would give you additional sessions. And now it's really part of the course, right? If you're in the course, I want to do a private session with you, and then you can do it at your own pace. So that's totally up to you. And so you make the payments essentially when you're ready to do a private session. And you get a vocal superpower reading, which is kind of a culmination of Western astrology, human design, and gene keys, purely focused on your self-expression. So it's like a deep dive right away, getting the astrological point of view and seeing how much of it you want to incorporate in your ideas of your personal projects and your anchor points of holding shared experience and in leadership events like legacy events. Okay. So let me know. There's only going to be 5 tops for those because busy gal over here doing a lot of stuff. Got to get the whole house moved. Got to get the whole house moved, right? So So that is what is available for our this year. We normally at this time of year we would go into a vocal creatrix as a private cohort, and we're not doing that this year. We're not doing that this year. So we'll see what we do even in the winter, because that's what we do our next kind of entry point. Um, so characters about Diva characteristics that you want to take with you: uncompromising vision. You need to keep an eye on how to keep your legacy in the full possibility of energy, in the full vibration. You want to notice if you're lacking motivation and energy or lacking trust, that this is going to be a process that ends in something good. How do you know? Is usually you lose the desire to do it if you're not. You feel meh most of the time if you lost trust that something good can happen because of what you're doing. That's where that comes from. Okay, we talk about it more in Vocal Creatrix. You want to start to build a business that you don't feel like you're showing up to like a job. Okay, this is why I don't really focus on people who are trying to make millions of dollars in their business. This is more for people who are interested in building a legacy and know that it's going to take time and have something that they're doing that's meaningful. Usually they're already in a job or they're already doing some version of this. It's just that they want to hone it to a high level skill, right? So the thing that we do when we're putting that stuff on the writer, when we're asking for the environment that we want to create from, is that we are expecting the support. I expect white M&Ms in my dressing room when I'm there. I know that means you have to plan a year in advance, but I don't just care. Right? Like, get it right, right? And how that changes your language. It's going to change how you ask for the thing, how clear you are about the thing. Um, and when you don't ask for support, you're compromising the vision. The same way that the artist is compromising the art. If they don't have their team taken care of, they don't have their band taken care of, then how are they going to perform at a good level so you can be the best singer with the band? Right? Like if there's not that support behind you, then it can mess up a lot of stuff, including your focus, which is the most important part, right? So it's important. It's all important. And again, the level with which we value that which we share is the level we show up for it. That is the whole point of Gracious Diva leadership. When we go into the portals, we're going to be tapping into how we are divinely tuned to what that is for ourselves. How do we, how are our mistakes creating the truth of our divinity? We're going to get into that. Woo! That is some powerful stuff. I'm just feeling the energy. It's like a lot. Wow. And knowing your motivations, what you're truly motivated by will not go away. And I put this in a post and I was like, oh, people are not going to agree with this. It's one of those moments where I'm like, oh no, I know they're going to think I'm wrong because they're going to think I mean it this way and that way. But sometimes you just got to say it. A true purpose does not go away because the true purpose is you. You are who you be. Who you be is why you're here. What you do is why you are here. You can't lose it in that way. And if you're tapped into it, the authenticity, that power of authenticity is evident and is immediate and is attractive. That's how we magnetize the right connections, the right people. I was thinking of calling this a divine assignment retreat, right? Like a divine reassignment, the understanding of the assignment retreat, right? Like understanding why we're here. Let's understand. Let's get clear. Let's get clear because it will totally change how you're able to help people. If you realize people need exactly what you have, then you can be what you need to be for them to get exactly what they need. Right? I always think about like if I had a teacher who was able to speak to me the way I'm able to speak to people, I would have not been so lost for so long. I don't think I would have gotten liver cancer. I don't think it would have happened. So we're here to learn how our difference prevails, how our unique qualities are the points of our power, And we're learning to embody the truth of that, to get aligned to the truth of the power of our personal leadership, even as we are without the skill building. We get to stand for our vision. We get to set the boundaries without being guilty about it. Grace is about guilt. Like if you're not, graciousness does not assign guilt to anyone. I need what I need because I said what I need. I know what I need because I checked out what I need. I know what it takes because I've practiced being supported. And I'm sure that if you give me these things, I will be everything you paid for and more. Because it's easy for me, because it's who I be, right? That you're creating a safe space for your community when you create a safe space for yourself. That's something we didn't talk about, but it's true. You can feel how that's true, right? If you feel safe, the people that need you will feel safe. If you feel safe to be fully yourself, the people that need you will feel safe to be fully who they are. And that in itself is a gift. That in itself is a reason to show up. Because we need more of that, right? And how to feel stellar in the spotlight, how to build up our own confidence so we feel good beforehand. We tap into our power when we get there for the event, and then we show up and we show out, and we set ourselves up to win to do that. By getting that right, honey. So yeah, so this is what we're doing out here. We're making sure that that divergence of creativity isn't keeping you from focusing. And our legacy portions, we're really honing in on those ideas of what tools and purposeful action and preparation, what that can do for us in just being stronger leaders and people to show up for others, having more to give. That's really the goal. It's just having more to give, right? That we have a plan. I know how to set up projects. I know how to set up events. I know what it takes to create a solid one where people walk out with the experience that you intended. Right. So we talk about that more in the coursework. And we have actual practices, actual processes, things that I have been using for years for myself to be able to show up as an introvert with overwhelm, extreme anxiety, and still perform. And if I could do it with everything that was going through my body at that time, I promise you, it will change your life. If you have any hangups about confidence and performance, it changes you without you even realizing it's changing you. That's the power of voice. It's already changing you. You don't really have to do anything about it. It really is just experiencing the vibration and allowing it to create more flow. And that's just how powerful it really is. And when you match out with intentionality and the pituitary gland and the third eye, holy, right? Holy. You know what I'm saying? We're doing this to share our truth and beauty with the world in a way that is healing and increases growth. So we're not requiring this death culture for others, right? Like go until you're spent, go until you crash, go until you get sick. Like, what is that? And let's not perpetuate it. So we have to understand how not to do it for ourselves if we're going to pass that on, impactfully. Right? You can teach people, but in order to do it impactfully, you have to be in it. You have to be doing it for yourself, right? Create what you are grateful to receive, remembering the value of who we are, what we have to offer, and then because we value it, because we're grateful, we're sharing it, coming for the overflow. Right? So we're gonna get those anchor points in, and we build these amazing legacy events. It's because that you want the beauty that you're experiencing, the easier version of life that you're experiencing to happen for others. I hope that's what we're sharing. Okay? If not, again, just making the life easier as a direct result. I think entertainment, that's why I love movies. Like, it's just like, it may be temporary, but gosh, what a gift to just be somewhere else for a while. That's why I love stories. All right. So how do you get started? You want to join in. You want to go ahead. And if you're not registered for the vet, what you doing? What you doing? It's free. You get access to the portal, just do it. Right? And then if you know that you're ready to have a focal, that's not even where I'm going. But if you know you're ready that to be fully supported in becoming the leader that you know you can be, not just some generic version of leadership, the leadership that you know we need. This is the design for yourself to be who you are, right? This is what I'm making. I'm not looking for somebody to be a me. I just know that most of my people have some of the complexities of being me, and it's going to create their own beautiful flower as a result. Their essential self, their essential leadership style. I have so many different ways of speaking about it. If I could just throw titles at you, you'd be like, oh, that sounds like that sounds good. All right. So, and I do. I'm sorry for that, but I do jump. I like. I love my titles. I love my titles. Why? Because they really are a reflection. I can't house the whole thing, but they have this yes and yes. Give me that more of that, please. That's at least that's how people have received them in the past. Hopefully, that's how you feel as well. So we've done Famous Day One. We were talking about leadership styles and what does it take to embrace your inner diva. And day two was today, and we were just talking about how to take the stage. What's the challenge about that? How can we combat that challenge? And I told you about what's available to you for free and as part of the Vocal Alchemy Accelerator. And then tomorrow, we're going to talk about innovation. What does it look like when creativity has come into a supportive environment? And what does it look like when I'm bringing my creativity to a supportive? By what environment do I need for my version of creativity? That's the fun. That's the fun. It'll be so cool. I can't wait to tell you more. So I'll talk to you more tomorrow. And I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day or evening. And I will see you on day three of the art of being a gracious diva.